Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time it is a rant and review on Predators, a 2010 sequel to Predator and Predator 2. Technically, you could argue that it's the third film in the franchise, but then you could also argue that it's the fifth since there was AVP and AVP Requiem before this. I tend to kind of count those as their own separate franchise. So for me personally, this is the third film in the Predator franchise, and it started the downward decline of the character and of the franchise as a whole, at least for me personally. Forgive me if I sound a little stuffed up, or if maybe I end up clearing my throat at some point during this video, or if there's some edits or something. I'm dealing with maybe a tad bit of a cold right now, but it's not to the point where it's like I can't do anything, and I really feel like I really feel like I need to start pumping out some more content for you guys, and a little bit of a cold is not going to stop me. So my voice is maybe might not be 100%, and it does sound like I'm congested. It's because I am. But I'm powering through it like a boss. Now, the film is directed by Nimrod Antal, but originally the choice for director was Neil Marshall, who did Dog Soldiers. And it's really a shame that he didn't get a chance to do this, because this film is right in his wheelhouse. Nimrod Antal, before this, he did things like Vacancy and Armored. This was not a guy who was known for horror action or anything of that type. So he was no more known for like thrillers. He was a thriller guy. He wasn't really an action guy, and he wasn't really a horror guy. But at the end of the day, neither was John McTiernan. But unlike John McTiernan, Nimrod Antal does not exceed expectations here. He does not rise to the challenge, and at best his direction is mediocre. I don't think his direction is one of the biggest problems this film has. It's competent. It's there. It's not totally incompetent. It isn't. It's a competent job in terms of the directing. It's not a joke. It's not like has too much shaky cam or he doesn't know what he's doing. It's just one of those things where it's just average. And for a film that has such a weak story, and that has such poor characters and equally as bad pacing, it really is a film that needed a director who was at least above average, if not excellent, to take what was given to them and to elevate it somewhat. And Nimrod Antal was not that guy. And you can tell because he didn't really do that much after this. In fact, he's pretty much almost essentially retired from directing big budget films. I think he did a few things after this, like a couple things, but nothing of this caliber, except for a documentary about Metallica, or I think it was a band. I think it was also a live show, but I think / documentary. It was Metallica Through the Never. After that, he did pretty much nothing. He did a Hungarian action movie in 2017 called The Whiskey Robber, directed an episode of a show called Wayward Pines, and that's it. So, clearly, Nimrod was not the type of director who was meant to last in Hollywood, not the type of guy who would be given more jobs, because he really wasn't a guy that was like really making his films considerably better. He ran an okay ship, and an okay ship isn't good enough, especially for films like Predators that cost, they only cost $40 million, and the film did make a profit, but it's just one of those things where the film could have done even better, and he didn't do that much in order to help it get to that point. And his direction wasn't necessarily that impressive, so studios were not like banging at his door to hire him to do films. As mediocre as Nimrod's direction is, like I said earlier, it's not this film's biggest problem. The film has two crippling flaws to me, and they absolutely leave the film dead in the water. The script and the characters. Two equally as important elements for me personally when it comes to a film. Two of the most important elements. A story and a screenplay that's engaging, that's interesting, that's captivating in some way. And characters that are likable, that are entertaining, that in some way make you latch onto them and make you care about them. And this is especially crucial in a film like Predators, which is relying upon suspense and thrills and horror. And if you don't have characters that are intriguing or likable or charismatic, there's no suspense. Because why should I give a fuck about any of these bland, generic characters, especially their fates? Why? There's no reason why I should care whether or not a predator shows up and rips their spine out their asshole. And that's the biggest part. That's one of the biggest problems with this film, and one of the biggest strengths that Predator and Predator 2 had. They had charismatic, likable characters that you cared about, that you didn't want to see die. Maybe they didn't have that much character development, but there was charisma and personality that made up for it. These characters are cannon fodder at best, and that's it. And they can't carry the film. And the script by Alex Litvak and Michael Finch do them no favors. It doesn't give these characters or these actors much to work with. I don't know if this is necessarily a cut and dry case of the acting is bad in this film. I think there are certain actors in the cast that do okay. I just think the script severely lets them down. Gives them next to nothing to work with. Doesn't give them a whole lot to do. And therefore, the characters come across as a whole bunch of weak asses. As a bunch of fucking wimps. And in large part, it's because the script didn't bother to give them any truly badass moments or characterization that makes the audience go, wow, that character is cool. I hope they make it out in the end. Like Dutch or Harrigan. There's none of that. There's none of that in this movie. And the script also fails to understand the Predator, which is another problem that a lot of these Predator sequels have done lately. With all of this wealth of information, previous sequels, and Dark Horse comics and stories, you would think that they would be able to use that to their advantage in other Predator sequels. But that just isn't the case. And for the life of me, I don't understand why. There's so many great stories that Dark Horse and company put together that you could have adapted or cribbed from or taken elements from for a sequel. But no, instead they decide to ignore it, write something original, and they basically did a soft reboot of Predator. Right down to a lot of the same lines of dialogue. The climax is somewhat similar. There's sequences even where the characters end up falling off a waterfall. There's too many similar elements in this that make it just feel like a watered down rehash of Predator. It even takes place in the jungle again. Maybe that's why some people like to say it's better than Predator 2, because Predator 2 sucks because it doesn't take place in a jungle. This time around, it's in a jungle, but it's in outer space. It's a Predator planet. Which I'll give the screenwriters this. That concept is somewhat interesting. I don't feel they do that much with it, and I personally feel it's a failure in execution, because the predators, when they do show up, don't leave much of an impression. The one that left most of an impression was a classic predator played by Derek Mears, and he's barely in the movie. The new super badass predator doesn't look that badass at the end of the film, if you ask me. And it's just one of those things where it's like, if you were going to have like this Predator Planet thing, like, do more with it. Like, have more death scenes, have more gore, have more crazy balls to the wall carnage. There's none of that. There isn't even a single memorable death scene in this movie. I can't think of a single one. And for an R-rated film, it's kind of tame. It's kind of tame. Especially when it comes to the violence. And another problem with this script is the fact that it tries to be a slow burn, but it never gets going. The fire never gets lit. It starts out with could be an exciting sequence, but isn't exciting at all because it's full of really bad green screen and CGI. Excuse me. I'm glad this isn't vodka, because if it's vodka, man, I'd be hammered. I have a reason to, because of the state that this franchise is in, and that descent into the shitter started with this movie. Now, going back to what I was saying, it's a fire that never gets lit because you have the opening sequence, which has potential, but it looks faker than fuck. Then it spends way too much time introducing all these random characters and taking too much time to let them know, and you know that they're on an alien planet. And then, like, the first action sequence doesn't even involve a predator. It involves these really lame-looking predator dogs, which are either really shitty, crappy CGI, or practical effects. And why do predators have predator dogs? Why do they need hunting dogs? Because it flushes them out. Doesn't that kill the thrill of the hunt? I thought these predators were all about honor and all about tribal concepts and all about the thrill of the hunt and hunting people in their natural habitat and taking them out on a level playing field. How does flushing them out equate to that? It's like the writers were like, predators are hunters, so let's actually literally have predators hunt the same way that hunters do. And that takes away a lot of the mystique of the predators. Also, why the fuck do they have drones that keep tabs on people? Predators don't do that shit. They don't need fucking drones to keep tabs on people. That's another way for a predator to cheat. There's no thrill of the hunt when you could just cheat and know where your prey is at all times because of these fucking drones. The first sequence that has any sort of action is a trap scene. There's some traps set up by some dead guy before he died. The traps don't end up really doing that much, if I remember correctly. I'll give the film this. It was done practically. That's one of the few things about this film that I thought was good, was the production design, the art direction. And I like the fact that it was shot on set or on location for most of the time and used very minimal CGI. There was still CGI, but it wasn't a total CGI fest. I gotta give the film credit for that. And so you have the trap sequence, the predator dog sequence, which does nothing for me because the film has all these characters, but it doesn't give me a reason to give a fuck about any of them. Danny Trejo's the first one to die, but he's already dead, and the predator tried to do some bullshit where it tried to trick the people on the planet in order to hunt them. That's another instance of a behavior the predator would not fucking do. I wonder if these writers watched Predator, or Predator 2 or Red Dark Horse Comics or did any of that, because it totally doesn't seem like it, because Alex Litvak and Michael Finch wrote a script that doesn't understand the fucking Predator. Predator wouldn't be doing that shit. That kills the thrill of the hunt. They're not going to be tricky. They're not going to do that bullshit. They'll use their camouflage, and then that's as far as they're going to go in terms of being tricky. They're not playing fucking games. And so you have the Predator dog sequence, and then after that, the only other action sequence is a short little brief scuffle at the Predator camp. There's some energy cannons that are blasted off. I think the African soldier guy gets stabbed by a Predator, and that's it. And that's all you have for the first hour of the film. They get chased out, and they fall off the waterfall, and that's it. That's the first hour of the movie. I hear people defending this movie say, well, Predator was a slow-paced film. Yeah, Predator was a slow-paced film. But you know what? It had an awesome action sequence in the first 30 to 40 minutes. It didn't have a bunch of lame action sequences that are forgettable and boring. If you ask me, Predators puts the B in boring. It's a boring fucking film. That's the biggest fucking... I mean, not necessarily the biggest fucking problem, but it's one of the problems. It's one of the biggest fucking problems with this film. It's fucking boring. And a big part of why it's so boring is because of its pacing and because of its characters. The story could have something going, but other than the concept, that's all it has. Because the characters suck, so therefore the suspense sucks. The action sequences, when they are there, are nothing. They might as well not have even happened in the first place, because they don't get my heart rate going. They don't pump up the adrenaline. They're a bunch of fucking limp dicks. And then if that isn't bad enough, after the hour mark, the movie slows down even more and does character building shit, where I get to know the Russian has kids and the Yakuza guy talks too much. And this is the kind of shit you do early in the fucking movie. Or if you want to do it at that point, you will have earned it because you had action sequences, or an action sequence that was epic and badass like Predator. But no, that doesn't happen here. So it just slows the film down to even more of a crawl and kills any momentum that it might have had, and the film never recovers from it, because then after that point, after they've been sitting around there in Lawrence Fishburne's camp and blabbing, and the film's done too much blabbing at this point anyway, because it's another part of the script, too much fucking dialogue and exposition, not enough Predators, not enough scenes of Predators fucking up people in a movie called Predators! It's just one of those things that this isn't rocket science. This isn't that hard to do. And the film manages to fuck it up so badly. And it gets a pass from so many people, which I will never understand. If you like the film, that's fine. To each their own. I don't understand. To me, it's boring. It's not just slow-paced. It almost has no pacing. Except being extremely turgidly slow to the point where it's detrimental to the film. The characters suck, and the Predators, they don't show up until like what, 40 minutes of the movie, and don't really do that much, and when they do, it's not much of anything that leaves much of an impression. And then the climax relies upon this twist with Topher Grace's character that, unless you somehow fell for it, which, if you did, that's the oldest trick in the book, but for people like myself, we didn't fall for it. We saw it coming a mile away. As soon as this nerdy guy shows up on a Predator planet with a bunch of killers, I would definitely think that this guy was a serial killer. Oh, yeah, he is. Wow, what a shocker. He might as well have had serial killer stamped on his fucking forehead the moment he crash landed on the planet. Because It was that obvious to me from the moment I saw Topher Grace on screen. The trailer also gives it away, if I remember correctly. So a big part of the climax relies upon that fucking twist. So that hurts the film, because a big part of the climax relies on some shit that I saw coming a mile away. Then the super badass Predator, who wears all black because he's so badass, then goes up against the original Predator, who was really well played by Derek Mears. Finally somebody in a Predator suit who could actually come close to what Kevin Peter Hall brought to the role. And he gets his head cut off. There's a little scuffle between the original Predator and the new Predator cuts his head off. And that automatically, the film gets 2 middle fingers from me right up its scaly fucking ass, because I'm sick and fucking tired of that bullshit, not only in a film like Predators, or in a franchise like the Predator franchise, but in any other franchise. I hate that shit, where you have like the new thing kills the old thing, and I get how people feel when it comes to Jurassic Park 3. I get it now, because a lot of people hated the Spinosaurus killing the T-Rex. I get it. And the more I think about it, yeah, maybe they could have handled that a little differently. But here, it's just, there's no reason for it. And it's not like the new Predator really does come across more badass. After it kills the original Predator, it honestly comes across like a fucking dunce. Falls for the same shit with the mud. Royce covers himself in mud. Does his best Batman impression, which is something that Adrien Brody was doing throughout the whole movie. And Adrien Brody, no offense to Adrien Brody, but he is without a doubt one of the biggest miscastings in film history. Adrien Brody as Royce is one of the worst examples of casting I can think of. This guy can't hack it. He can't believably portray this role of a badass mercenary. He sounds like he's doing a half-ass Batman impression half the time. This is a hunting preserve, and we're the game. The guy's never believable in any instance. The guy was the fucking pianist. He wasn't believable in King Kong either. And he's sure as fuck not believable here. This is where you should have had someone like Thomas Jane. Sucks that Thomas Jane has to be a part of a film that somehow manages to be an even worse Predator movie than this. When there was a prime example, there was a prime moment in time for him to be a lead in a film like this, and the film probably still would have sucked because the script sucks and doesn't do the characters any favors, but it would have been a little bit more tolerable with Thomas Jane in the lead role instead of Adrien Brody, because I don't buy him in this role. I don't buy him beating the new super badass Predator. That makes the new super badass Predator look weak. Looks like a fucking bitch to me. You killed the original Predator, and then you're having a hard time with Adrien fucking Brody? You fall for the same shit with the mud, and it takes you forever and a day to change your vision so you can see him. And then you get shot with a sniper round, and that takes you down. The Predator in Predator 2 got shot at point blank with a shotgun by Harrigan multiple times and still got up. It got its arm cut off and was still going. This Predator gets shot once in the fucking chest with a sniper rifle round, and it's supposed to be the new super badass Predator? That's all it takes? Gets hit a few times in the head, or a little bit in the body with some flimsy looking axe, then gets shot once in the chest, and then gets his head cut off. Yeah, that's some new super badass Predator you got there. Robbie Rod and Alex Litvak, or Lick My Ass, and Michael Finch. It's definitely a rant. This is one of those old school rants where I'm just ranting. I'm just rambling, man. There's not that much order. It's just fucking chaos. But yeah, characters, story, they suck. It's a huge problem with this film. The performances by the cast: Adrien Brody, Topher Grace, Alice Braga, Walton Goggins, Lawrence Fishburne, Oleg Tadrakov, Taktarov, Danny Trejo. It's not like, other than Adrian Brody, it's not like they have bad performances acting wise. It's just that their characters are bland and boring. They're milquetoast. They're plain fucking white bread. The Predators don't make it any more interesting either, because you got the new super badass Predator who dresses all in black. You have these two other Predators who I don't know what their fucking thing is. Apparently one of them is a Berserker Predator, but doesn't seem to do that much of a Berserker things. One Predator gets blown up by the Russian. Another Predator gets cut in half by the Yakuza guy with a katana in some artsy-fartsy fucking shot that doesn't belong in a Predator film. Takes place in the weeds, in the reeds, and whatever the fuck. And that's in the moment where the film just is like, fuck it. People gotta die now. Because we dicked around and spent way too much time with fucking dialogue and boring ass shit. Now let's have the Predators come in and hunt people. And some Predators have to die because, you know, we have to leave the super badass Predator, the one, alone. Why don't you have an ending where it subverts expectations, and instead of doing the cliched bullshit where the sequels do, where the new Predator kills the old one, have the old Predator kill the new Predator, and then the old Predator hunts down the remaining survivors? How about that? So that way the original Predator isn't just some lame, lazy bit of fan service. And the ship that he was supposed to get for Royce didn't matter anyway because the new Predator blew it up. But if I were to talk about some performances that were decent, Alice Braga is fine. I think she has a certain spunk to her, but her character sucks. I don't know what she does. I just know that she has a sniper rifle. Out of all these other characters, we find out what their professions are. I don't know what she does, or what her profession was, or why she was chosen to be on this planet. Maybe it was a line of dialogue that I missed. If that's the case, I missed it because the movie lost me, or I took a micro nap because the film was so snooze-inducing and boring. Lawrence Fishburne does fine, but I'd rather him not play a crazy guy. And he has, and this is another example of the script coming up with some cool ideas. He has a Predator mask, and he has the ability to use the camouflage. They do nothing with it, except he uses it once, he dies, and then what you would see in any fucking screenwriting class, this would be taught in any screenwriting class, Screenwriting 101. You have something like that, you save it for the climax. That would make the new super badass Predator look less stupid because, oh, it's not mud again. He's using Royce is using the Predator's own camouflage against it. And then maybe you can have a scene where the new Predator has a way to switch his vision so he can see other Predators while they're using the camouflage. So that's how he's able to see him and take him out. And then you have the Predator look smarter and actually look like, wow, it is a little bit of an upgrade because it's smarter, it's faster, it's stronger. Don't have it go down with one fucking sniper round and get cut a few times with a tiny axe. Have it put up more of a fight than that. And have it show some more smarts. And if you're going to have something cool like a human using the Predator technology, fucking bring it back later. Why the hell did that not happen? Lawrence Fishburne was not wearing the helmet when he was blown apart by a Predator. This just always goes back to the script. You had two writers, and they couldn't come up with a screenplay that was able to get the most out of this concept. And even the score isn't much. John Debney, all he did was Xerox notes from Alan Silvestri's score for Predator. And copy or he just pasted a few of his own notes here and there, but around 90% of the score is just Alan Silvestri. I heard that he was initially asked to do it, but then he wasn't able to, either to scheduling conflicts or he didn't want to. So they went with John Debney, who is a pretty good composer in his own right. And then most of the film is just Predator cues by Silvestri. Anything that John Debney offered wasn't much of anything. The cinematography by Guy Lapados looked pretty bland, and at times it was just dark and dingy, and that's probably what they were going for, but it didn't really get the most out of this lush jungle, this space jungle. It didn't really get the most out of it. It just looked like it was shot on a set a lot of the times, and it was. That could also be a part of Nimrod's average at best directing. Edited by Dan Zimmerman. Shit could have been cut out, or more, or honestly, just more things should have been added. There should have been at least another action sequence. There should have been more to this. There should have been a faster body count and more ingenious ways of the Predator killing people. Where are the discs? Where are the spears? Why is it just energy cannons and the blade on the gauntlet? Like, what? Where is all the other cool gadgets the Predators had? Where's the net? Where's any of that shit? Predator 2 at least advanced things. It was like, oh, here's a new, younger, brasher Predator, and it has all this new tech. All we got is like a new, oh, it's wearing all black, and it's got a black helmet. That's all you got. Is like some new wardrobe. New bits of wardrobe for the Predators. And stupid dogs. Trying to think of anything else that I want to say about this film. I know it's a pretty long video anyway. I'm winding down. I'm running out of steam. I don't really have much else to say except it's just a huge missed opportunity. You had a decent concept, a bunch of people on a Predator planet, and you blow it. You blow it out your ass. And I don't know why they didn't have like more actual, larger than life characters, character actors, like Predator and Predator 2 had. This is a prime example to have like Dolph Lundgren in the cast play the Russian. And the guy who played him did okay, performance-wise, but he had nothing to do. He had a minigun, but I don't think he even shot one Predator with it. I mean, I don't really have much else to say, except there are a lot of ways that you could have fixed this. Get Thomas Jane as the lead instead of Adrian Big Nose Brody. Get someone like Dolph Lundgren in the cast to add a little bit more star power, or someone who could believably fight a Predator. Maybe even get someone like Jet Li or Donnie Yen to play the Yakuza guy. Like, get some big, somewhat names. If you're gonna do the serial killer thing, don't make it obvious, or make it obvious from the start. It's already known that he's a serial killer. The rest of the people on the planet already know it. They don't trust him. And then he decides to split off, and he's the one that lets the Predator go, the original Predator, because he wants to go on the ship, or he wants to kill the original Predator because he wants to know what it's like to kill an alien. And then he gets killed by that alien, and that's why the original Predator's loose. The new Predator shows up, tries to fight the original Predator. The original Predator kicks his fucking ass, and then it's the original Predator hunting down the remaining survivors. And then instead of trying to do some sequel bait bullshit at the end where, oh, let's wait for more people to arrive on the planet, which I'm like, why? These Predators are dead. Are there more Predators? And also, why was the original Predator? Why did they chain it up? What was the purpose here? Was it his planet? Is that his ship? None of that's ever explained. I guess you just have to assume that that's the case, because the script fucking sucks. Oh, and also, all these other problems the film has, oh, doesn't understand the Predator, really lame, weak ass fucking characters, piss poor pacing. All of that just leads up to quote Danny Glover in Predator 2, the script in the movie basically telling you, fuck yourself. That's basically what Predators is doing. It's just fuck yourself. You want to see a badass go up against a badass actor go up against a predator again? Fuck yourself. You get Adrian Brody. You get the fucking pianist. Oh, you want to see some cool new tech and new weapons for the predators and ingenious kills and shit like that and crazy gore? Fuck yourself. You want an exciting, thrilling sequel that doesn't bore you to fucking tears? Fuck yourself. Now, fuck you. Fuck you, Predators. Fuck you, writers. Fuck you, 20th Century Fox. And I don't really know what else to say about the film. I've said a lot already. Some people would be like, I've said too much. I don't know. I don't know what else to say about the film, except if I were to rate it out of 5 stars, I would give Predators 1 out of 5. I'll give it for prosthetics and aesthetics. The makeup effects on the Predators and some of the bits of gore when they were there were decent. They were actually, a lot of the prosthetics were actually pretty good by Alec Gillis and Tom Woodruff. The aesthetics, which is the production and art design, some of the concepts, the idea of the Predator planet and the humans using Predator tech, but that's it. Other than that, this movie, it puts the B in boring, and it puts the P in piss. And I don't know what else to say about Predators. I'm done. I got nothing else to say about this movie. Thank you for watching my review. Thanks for watching my rant. And as always, I will see you later. See ya.